Alright, so in this video, I want to do some top-down analysis. I'll first take a look at Market Cypher, see how that is developing, and then I want to take a look at this local range that Bitcoin is trading in. It seems like Bitcoin wants to continue trading within this range of price action. We did technically break the low, but it was a pretty poor break, and now Bitcoin is immediately pulling back up into this range. So I want to take a look at some of these significant levels within this range and maybe come up with some potential trading ideas. So I will start on the weekly time frame. So despite my bearishness, despite all the reasons why I think Bitcoin should get a retracement here, I have to say the weekly time frame is not looking all that bearish, and it could actually be showing signs now of kind of printing a reversal. In terms of this momentum coming down, we are seeing the VWAP start to turn back to the upside. So, the VWAP crossing over would cause a green dot to print here. That usually leads to momentum getting another move to the upside. And, potentially it's just to put in a lower high like this. Maybe we could actually see some bearish divs on this weekly time frame. But, yeah, right now it seems like the VWAP is turning back to the upside. And I will be watching how this VWAP develops to kind of gauge the likeliness of this producing a significant move to the upside. I think if it crosses over with a strong looking VWAP, and the way I gauge that is by basically the curvature of it. I want to see an inward curve crossing over the zero line, and it's kind of tough to draw that out. But if I zoom in here, we have this one angle of the VWAP right here. I'll kind of leave it a little bit farther away from the VWAP so you can see it. So we have that angle. And basically what I want to see on the next weekly close is a sharper angle to the upside. And that would give it this kind of inward curvature look. Something kind of similar to what we saw over here, although, this started off with a bit of an outward curve. So, this is kind of a sign of weakness, but this VWAP did kind of end up turning around. We saw the angles of the VWAP become more sharp as it actually crossed over the zero line. So that's kind of what I want to see from this VWAP. You can see another good example of that over here, a nice inward curving VWAP. But if it starts having more of an outward curve to it, even if it does cross over the zero line, there's a better chance that, that outward curve just kind of continues to the downside. Maybe it's like a short-lived green dot here. And other than that, we're not really seeing many bearish signs on this weekly time frame. We don't have any macro divergences in terms of momentum or money flow. Money flow on the weekly is looking, thick. Not as thick as it was back in the bull market, but you can't really say this looks bearish. Now looking at the daily time frame, what I've been looking at in my past few videos was the bearish signs that we are seeing within this range of price action. So Bitcoin got to move up to a key area. We hit off of the golden pocket from all-time high to bear market low. And we saw bearish signs as we got that wick up into that resistance area, both locally on the 4-hour time frame from this wick to that wick that actually hit the golden pocket. We saw some local divergences, and we also see some higher time frame divergences on the daily with momentum and money flow. And now just kind of outlining the general direction of Market Cypher, you can see that things are just in general taking a turn to the downside in terms of momentum and money flow. And I mentioned that, the next sign that I would be looking for bearish evidence would be losing this range low with a significant close. So we have lost the range low. We did close a daily candle below it, but it is not looking like a very significant close. I'm not really sold on it yet, especially since price is now pulling back up into this range. Now, we did technically get the close, so maybe Bitcoin just wants to retrace and put in a lower high very quickly. That is possible. Or maybe this is saying that Bitcoin just wants to continue trading within this range. We've seen Bitcoin trade within ranges for extended periods of time. We saw that down here. And taking a look at the daily time frame right now, we are seeing that this momentum wave is bottoming out, and momentum is getting a move back to the upside as Bitcoin is reclaiming this range. And one thing I'm looking at is, for this lower high scenario, where Bitcoin maybe just gets moved back into this range, but doesn't stay in there long, we could see this daily momentum just come up, put in a lower high, and that could kind of align with this idea of us just putting in a lower high, maybe just trading in this range for a little bit longer before we ultimately break it to the downside. And even though, there is potential for this weekly time frame to get kind of a continuation signal if, we print a green dot here and momentum starts coming back to the upside. I think it's kind of unlikely that, that weekly time frame will just kind of reverse this daily bearishness right away. It is possible, the higher time frames do override the lower time frames, but there are, many reasons why I think that is kind of unlikely. Number one, we have reason to come to the downside in terms of liquidity. Also, the fact that we have this very large range down here that we broke up from aggressively and have yet to retest. And also, just kind of looking at it in terms of the Bitcoin cycles, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for us to continue with a sustained move to the upside here, given the fact that we haven't even had the Bitcoin halving yet. So looking back at the previous Bitcoin cycles, the pattern is we kind of get a, mid bear market rally, we get a significant retracement, and then the halving happens, which the last halving happened in May of 2020. It happened on May 11th, so it actually happened right after this black swan dump. And then from there, it takes a little bit for Bitcoin to ultimately begin its bull market rally. The previous all-time high was somewhere around 20K. So, if we measure from when the halving happened to when we actually hit all-time highs, it took a little bit. It took, over 200 days for us to actually push to all-time highs. So I think, history also kind of points to us getting a retracement before the halving happens. And, at this point, we are a few months away from the halving. I believe it's going to happen in April. And, things are a little different this time because, in the last cycle, we topped out in June of 2019, and then we got that bear market retracement, which lasted, many months before we actually got the halving. This was 276 days from that bear market rally top to the low and then to the halving. It took a long time. And, at this point, measuring out to April, it's going to be like 100 days. So we are in a bit of a different situation here. It's not, exactly how it was back in 2020. But, history doesn't have to repeat exactly, but it does often rhyme. And so, given all those reasons I just listed, I think it makes sense for a retracement. I think the price action reasons are there. I think the market cipher reasons are there. I think the time frame reasons are there. And, potentially it's just a healthy retracement in which we can find support in a key area and maybe put in a significant higher low and then build some foundation for the next move to the upside. Or potentially it's a situation that we saw last year where we get a, crazy dump. Maybe we do find support in this area, but then we get some kind of a black swan wick. And, I have to honestly say, I don't think the bear market lows are off the table. The last time that we got this wick, I believe it just front ran the low. And I'll pull up Bitstamp so I can actually see the previous low. So, yeah, last time we got pretty close to the bear market low. Didn't exactly hit it. And, you could say these were extreme circumstances, so maybe you shouldn't expect something like this. But, I probably would at least expect something similar to this, where we get a retracement and attempt to build some kind of foundation for the next move to the upside. So that's kind of my higher time frame view on Bitcoin right now. Now we can go down to some of the midterm time frames. We are seeing money flows start to come back into Bitcoin. The money flow on the 4 hour looks pretty good. Right now it's steadily putting in higher highs. We are seeing some divergences though, as we're putting in these higher highs here. This last one is unconfirmed, but we do have a confirmed div here. But it is not a div with money flow. Money flow is continuing to put in higher highs, so I tend to put less weight on divs without money flow. But maybe we could look at this as maybe Bitcoin just needs a little retracement, and maybe then it can continue its rotation back to the higher end of this range. We see something very similar on the 2 hour, and we kind of had potential for a bearish div with money flow. In fact, right now we do technically have one, but it seems like that can be voided very quickly. Money flows are going to move to the upside. It seems like it'll probably take out this high. But we do see the momentum divs on the 2 hour as well. And on the 1 hour, this is where we start to see a higher likelihood for money flow and momentum divs. So yeah, we are seeing those momentum divs, same as we saw in the other time frames. Now we're seeing another leg of that as we put in another higher high. And we also see that money flow is quite a bit lower from where it was at the previous high. Yeah, so we do have a money flow div at the moment. Now, it could still technically be voided. Money flow is getting a move to the upside right now. So if it continues up and takes out this high, then we will no longer have a money flow div here. But yeah, this is a bit more evidence to say, okay, maybe we will get more of a local retracement here. So with that being said, now let's take a look at some of the significant levels within this range that I am paying attention to. So first off, I will take the volume of this whole range. And yeah, we have gone above the value area low. We have the point of control and the value area high above us. So this already is looking like a zone of resistance that we could pay attention to. We can check for some confluence with some fib levels. I didn't get that pull exactly right, so I'll have to pull that up to the wick. And we can see if I can get it to line up that the 0.5 fib is kind of overlaying with the point of control. So a bit of confluence on that area. We also have, a little bit of confluence with this value area high as well. We have this wick, a support resistance flip potential there. So yeah, I kind of like this zone right now. I also like the fact that we have this high over here. We could potentially grab the liquidity from that high and get a move into this zone up here. Now, if we get a move above the value area high, I think, the next place I would be looking would be the golden pocket. We do have to keep in mind that there is a inefficiency here, or a fair value gap, whatever you want to call that. There's just one candle here. That is typically pretty easy to run through. So maybe you'd be looking at like the higher end of this golden pocket. And, I'd have to see really clear signs here, because if we're going to get above the value area high of the range, there's a much better chance that we just, push up potentially to take out some of this liquidity and maybe even make a run for the high. So I don't think I love this golden pocket as much as I like the idea of us rejecting from this zone. But these are the next resistance levels that I would be watching if we get above the value area high. And yeah, I mean, if we get above the 786 and we take out this liquidity, there's a decent chance that we're just going to try and take out this high, try and take out those people that shorted this. So that is kind of what I'm looking at in terms of resistance levels. So what happens if we start getting a more local retracement here? I mentioned how, it's kind of looking like that may happen on the 1 to 4 hour. We are seeing some divergences here. So let's take a look at some of these support levels. So it would be a good look if we could hold this value area low as support. I also think it would look good if we just quickly wick below it, maybe get a move down to this golden pocket, and then quickly reclaim the value area low. There is also an inefficiency leading up to this golden pocket, so I think that is a likely scenario where we just get a quick wick down there. And we have seen many wicks into the zone before. This is kind of like the previous range low. So it's a support resistance flip as well. We kind of flipped it to resistance a little bit before we got that aggressive move to the upside. So I do think it makes sense to potentially get a wick down to this area. So yeah, that is one idea that I'm watching. And I also want to look at some more local areas of support, because we are in an uptrend right now. What happens if we just put in another higher low and then look to make a move up to this resistance area? In that case, then, if there's a long opportunity within this local context, then, yeah, I would probably take it if the confirmations are there. So we can look for support in this area as well. So first, I want to take a look at the fib pull from that low to this high. And yeah, I mean, I like this general fib pull. We got the key fib levels within this, previous range. Let's also take a look at the volume. So we got a bit of confluence with the point of control. The value area high is kind of lining up with a 0.5. But I think, the better looking area to me would probably be this golden pocket. I like that point of control confluence. We can also pull this volume profile back a little bit. And the point of control moves down slightly. So, we just in general have a high volume zone within this kind of box here. There's a point of control up here and also down here, depending on the pull. So yeah, I like the high volume node plus golden pocket confluence. I think that could make for a nice higher low if we are going to continue to the upside. And keep in mind, all of these zones that I'm marking out, I'm not going to touch unless I see a reason to as price gets to move up there. So what I do is I set alerts at these key levels. And if I see confirmations, I enter a trade. If I do not see confirmations, then I do not enter a trade. So I'll quickly just mark out all these zones that I'm watching so it's kind of less cluttered. I would honestly take this box from that wick high and maybe bring it a little bit lower than the golden pocket. You could even watch the 786, but at that point we probably wouldn't just see one wick all the way down to this area and then an immediate reclaim. At that point, we'd probably like kind of bounce around here for a little bit, and then I'd want to see the value area low reclaimed and then even held as support before we continue higher. So I kind of like the golden pocket area more than this lower zone. And I would kind of want to see maybe just like a wick on one of the higher time frames, like the 4 hour, maybe the 12 hour, or the daily. And yeah, that's kind of what I'd be looking for in that zone. And I'm not going to mark out any areas up here. I am keeping in mind that there's resistance up in this area. And, if I see clear confirmations at any of these areas, maybe even getting a move up to this 786, grabbing some of this liquidity over here. Yeah, if I see clear confirmations, then maybe there's a trade set up there, but I am not feeling confident enough to mark out those areas right now. So those are pretty much the areas I'm paying attention to within this range. I see that we also got a little bit of confluence here with a daily open. That's what that gray dotted line is. So maybe even want to pull that box down to that daily open. And yeah, as long as Bitcoin is going to continue trading within this range, I am more than happy to look for trade setups within it. Ranges are kind of my bread and butter. So yeah, I'm fine with ranging here for a bit longer. All right, well, I think that's everything I wanted to go over. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. All that helps to support my channel. And I will see you all in the next video.